All right. Okay, let's start all over again. Hello, everyone. I'm Annalisa Burgos. Thank you so much for joining us on Tsismisan Census Talk Story with the Filipino Complete Count Committee, FYLPRO, and our special guest today. It's a very great topic, very near and dear to my heart because my kids are in school and they're in the Department of Education system. So I'm very excited to talk about this and a lot of concern on a serious note. So again, this is our final Tsismisan. It's been our pleasure to give you this series of interesting topics around COVID, around census, and all of these very important topics that affect our Filipino community. Thank you so much to our radio listeners that are joining us. I appreciate your patience as we get this started. We started a little bit late, but we're getting on right now. Shout out to our friends on Oahu who are listening from KNDI 1270, over on Maui Mix 105.5 FM, and on Kauai 107.9 FM KTOH HD3. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, our partners, Filipino Complete Count Committee Facebook page. You can go there and get more information even after the series is over. And of course, FYLPRO and Ethnic Education Hawaii. Thank you so much for your support of this wonderful series. And now I want to get to our panelists who have been patiently waiting. And I know as teachers, their patience is immense. So thank you for that. Our first panelist is Danny Acidera. He is a third grade teacher at Hahalone Elementary School, on his fourth year of teaching, received his teaching degree from Chaminade University of Honolulu, born and raised on Maui, and he says he has a passion for helping the community, and what better way to do it than starting with our keiki. Hi, Danny.
Hi, everybody.
Yay, we heard you. Awesome. Sounds working. All right. And then, of course, we have Elizabeth Obod-Frilles, or Ellie. She is a grade 7 science and genius hour teacher at Waialua High and Intermediate School. She was the 2015 Windward District Teacher of the Year and a 2015 HSTA Secondary Supernova Awardee, and she is passionate about youth literacy improvement and innovation legacy projects that support Filipino school communities, especially during the pandemic. I appreciate, and we so much appreciate scientists now more than ever, don't we, Ellie? Is she there? Did she unmute to shout out to me? Just make sure you guys unmute and something. I just want to make sure that we can hear her.
Aloha, everyone.
Yay! We got you. All right. And then, okay, I'm just monitoring also that our sound is okay to everyone. Make sure, definitely. All right. And then our next panelist is Ryan Mandado. He is an educator, school leader, and community advocate. He is the founding chief academic officer of Dreamhouse Eva Beach Public Charter School. Prior to his position, Ryan started his journey as a special education teacher through the Teach for America program and was a special ed teacher for 4 years at James Campbell High. And Ryan has a Bachelor's of Arts degrees in Mandarin Chinese and American Studies. Ooh, that's pretty cool. His master's in education from Johns Hopkins University and is a current doctoral candidate at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Hey there, Ryan.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see everyone virtually.
Yeah. And our next guest, Dr. Nel Venzon Jr., public high school teacher at Mililani High School and an adjunct university professor on Oahu. In 2019, Nel received the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching, and the highest honor bestowed by the United States government, specifically for K-12 STEM teaching. Congratulations to you for that. And a proud immigrant from Albay, Philippines. Hey, Nel.
Hello, aloha everyone. Magandang hapon.
Wow, bring out that Tagalog. Use it whenever you can. Okay, and Annie Sokol, of course, our beloved spokesperson for the U.S. Census Bureau. Thank you. She's from Mindanao, as we all know, speaks Tagalog and Visayan. Daghang salamat sa iyo, Annie.
Salamat sa Annalisa.
And we'll have our discussion about the census and get an update because for sure you've been doing some great work out there in the community. All right, so we'll say bye to Annie for now. And we are going to start with our education chat. Now, as we said, the topic is education and COVID and census. And as we know, we've been talking about how schools are reopening amid the pandemic. So much concern about, the spread, especially here in Hawaii now that cases are surging, they're higher, there's clusters, and how it's affected our the meaning of teaching and learning. So let's start with that. Let's go with kind of some background first. Let's start with Danny. Why did you go into teaching?
All right. So as I mentioned in my bio, that giving back to the community is a big thing for me, because that's just how I was brought up from my church and my family. And so, I think starting at a very young age, just wanting to, if you want to make a huge difference for our future, right, it's going to be for our kids, right? And on a less serious note, I think kids are just fun in general. And so, I'm in elementary school, and I think of myself as a little kid sometimes in an adult body. And so I just love the genuine curiosity and creativity that the kids bring. And, sometimes that just brings out the kid in me. And so, and I think just every day is like an adventure with these kids. You just don't know what's going to happen. Like, okay, that kid's crying now. Great. I don't okay, well, we're going to put this on the side right now. Everybody go do something else. So it's just super fun, and just, you don't know what you're going to expect. And so I think that's one of the reasons that I got into it.
And we appreciate you and your infinite patience in seeing that all in a positive way. Ellie, what about you? Why teaching for you?
In fact, it was my Lola Tining's dream and my father's Papa Dudong wish, my mom's advocacy. And then it became my own calling, my own passion to make a difference in the community, and just being, so excited of this part of legacy that transcends time and definitely transform lives from one generation to the next.
Oh, and I had the privilege of having an interview with you too, Ellie. So I'm glad. I know that this is an important mission for you personally. So thank you for joining us and sharing that. Ryan.
It's a dear in my heart.
Definitely. And Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, just a little bit about myself. I was born and raised low income to immigrant families in Kalihi. So I went to Kalihi Elementary, Kalakaua Middle, and I'm a proud graduate of Farrington High School. And in all those moments of, being involved with the public education system, it was really my teachers who got me out of those particular situations of growing up in violence, and, homes that had drugs in them. So I think using those lived experiences really impacted my life, and said, what if I become an educator so I can help kids just like me?
Yeah, so important. It gives you that interesting perspective and approach. Nell, I also interviewed Nell for a story as well. What about you? What motivated you?
So I was born and raised in the Philippines, and so when I moved to Hawaii, I know that was a great opportunity for me to pursue an American dream. And so I thought my passion in science, I wanted to share that with the community. And so by supporting our children, our youth, that's one way for me to share my passion by also making a difference to our society.
Oh, and I know that it's near and dear. And that's what I hear across all of you guys. Just this passion, this almost selfless feeling that, taking your perspective and giving back to the community. And I appreciate that so much. And so many parents, I think, do as well. And now let's kind of talk about teaching pre-COVID, because it's already was a challenge for teachers, right? We're always talking about maybe lack of resources, maybe some of these ongoing challenges that we see in our different communities. Nell, let's start with you. Let's go backwards this time. What was it like to be teaching before the virus?
Before the COVID, that part of our teaching endeavors, I think it was easier for me as a teacher to connect with my students, because they would stay after school and ask for help, and perhaps, come up with ideas for their, scientific investigation, scientific projects. And so it was relatively easier for me to support them and to provide that kind of mentorship. And so I think that was a great opportunity for me as a teacher. But because of the pandemic, I think things are limited. It's a little bit different now, because that type of mentorship is limited, like I said.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think one of the major differences is like what Nell said, the relationship building with students. Many people and adults in education became teachers because we wanted to be in front of kids and students. And when you take all of that away, it's kind of hard to engage with students via the screen. So teachers are really just figuring out how to get the best learning experiences on the online format and still get the depth of the learning that you would usually get in a normal school setting. And so it's really finding and being creative of ensuring that we meet those high rigorous academic standards for all of our students.
Yeah, and I guess it's also unique in the sense with special education. I mean, that's one of the exemptions that we've seen. While everyone else is on full-time distance learning, this was really important to keep that as well. Beforehand, it was already a challenge, right? Teaching and with our special education people.
Yeah, definitely. Helping students with special needs has been one challenging in school and when you're trying to figure it out online. It's really about building those partnerships with service providers and family members to ensure that they get all the equitable services they deserve. So a lot of our teachers in special education, as well as school leaders, are really trying to be innovative and come up with solutions to help all of our families.
Hmm. And Ellie, I know you teach both, the people going through changes, life changes in high school, the young ones that are transitioning into puberty, I dare say. That's an additional challenge. Tell us about, what you were doing before COVID.
Before COVID, we used to tell stories, and my students would come in my classroom, just hang out with me, and of course you genuinely get things that are really like wonderful stories from them, from their families and loved ones, and really to be able to connect to them heart to heart. And that was the thing that I missed so much, as well as communicating with my colleagues. Like I can just go to next door and then talk about students and how to help them. But now it's so hard because we need to have the social distance, and yeah, we need to put on our face mask.
Yeah, it's so different, isn't it? Because I think part of the jobs that you guys do is mental health and kind of, you're also counselors, I dare say, just making that personal connection with kids and what they're going through. What about Danny? How is it going for you? What was it before when you were working with students?
So I think before COVID, it was really easy to do a lot of hands-on activities and projects. So some of the things that I did with my students in the past was like painting a sidewalk game on campus, building a table bench with them, like, giving them tools and they're like putting things together and like measuring and doing all kinds of stuff like that. Like now it's like how am I going to get you the materials? What are we going to do? Right. So like, like Ryan said, we're going to have to get creative. Right. And that's what teachers do. So like one of my projects was to do make a dream catcher. And so I was like, hey, this is the instructions on how to build it. These are the materials you need, but good luck finding like materials at home. And like, you're going to have to like figure out what you're going to do. Like instead of yarn, like kids busted out like dental floss. All right, cool. Yeah, that works. Like creativity is just like building and building and building. So I think like, even though it's a challenge, it's like a good problem to have. Cause then you're like, this is like real life problems for them. You know what I mean? So like, if we're talking about authenticity and like, I think we're hitting it straight on the nail of the head there. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And my kids are in elementary school, so I just find it so interesting to see how teachers are reinventing how they interact with their students when it's just through the screen. It's a challenge, but I think you guys are doing a good job coming up with ways to make it engaging and make it value add. So that I think is part of the big thing that you guys bring. I wanted to go back to Nell and Ryan, of course. What's the mood like in your campuses? As we've heard, there are cases that are popping up. We heard the death recently tied to Dole School, middle school. What's the mood like? Are people still worried? I know going into it, there was a lot of concern. Let's start with you, Nel.
Yes, at our school, at Millennium High School, teachers are very aware of the safety precautions. So, we practice the social distancing and the wearing of the mask. It's a different view compared to what it was before. I mean, compared to pre-COVID, students would go into the classes and classrooms and hallways and hang out. But here, without the students on campus, it feels like it's a different world. And so I'm slowly getting used to it, getting used to the new, I guess, view of our school settings. And so I think that's one of the things that I'm learning is how to get used to it. I see my students on the computer, I see them on the screen, but then it's a little bit difficult for me to make the connection at this point because they're not there to experience that teacher-student connection that I would otherwise, experience in a real-world face-to-face setting. So, but it's getting there. I'm slowly getting used to it. And there are also benefits, I guess, for doing things online because it's more efficient nowadays to maximize the time during class. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what about you, Ryan? We also know that teachers are still going to school. They are the ones that are teaching from their classrooms and they're interacting. How's that mood like?
As someone who runs a school, it's a little, well, one, I gave my teachers the option to work from home only because we have particular safety precautions. So we have some teachers who chose to work at home and allowing them to teach from home. And then if they had, some teachers are also dealing with home things related at home. They have children there and they need specific resources. So they can come to school to then teach if they need those resources. But I think overall, the difference is really how do we support our teachers that have to deal with, one, the mental and social and emotional well-being of students and their families, and also balance the social, emotional, and mental well-being of themselves and their families. And so thinking about teacher mental health as a priority for a lot of schools, because teachers are stressed out. And when you see issues that are happening in the community, that transfers into the classroom, which is why teachers are so essential in really recognizing how the community is responding to particular issues. And for COVID, you see that, right? Like, students might come in and discuss family members who might be affected or family members who have to go to work and can't come, and help them with distance learning. So there's a lot of things that needs to be addressed. But for me, it's really about ensuring our teachers feel supported emotionally because they need that right now.
Yeah, you bring up such a hot topic because I remember when we were talking about the public school system. So I know you are a private school, so you have that kind of leeway to decide on your own. But our Department of Ed schools, our teachers that work there don't really have a lot of that same freedoms. And, I know Ellie had to deal with that personally as well, kind of the challenge of if you want to work from home, some of the principals weren't allowing certain ones. Ellie, what can you say about the challenge of that and your concerns?
I believe it's really important to empathize with the teachers because we need to really be the one looking for how to protect our students, when they come to the class. We had our face-to-face hybrid instruction the very beginning of the school year, and we did a lot of safety protocols, social distancing, and it really, at the end of the day, we actually got exhausted. However, we also know, we are essential workers, and we really do care for our keiki here in Hawaii. And we are in this together, and for most part, my school is very supportive. My administrators, my colleagues, we collaborated to make the transition, especially for my 7th graders. Our team really collaborated to make the transition for 7th graders really smooth and safe for all of us. So that was really, really important, teamwork and collaboration among all stakeholders. Same thing with parents that, communicated and asking questions and giving feedback because those are really important for us.
How are you feeling? Do you feel that the school has done enough to help you and your other fellow teachers to protect you?
You know, I believe the Hawaii Department of Education is doing its best. And again, we have to really show our aloha, our empathy to each other, and hopefully they will improve the system and structure on how to really provide and protect all of us in this situation, because it's really hard. I mean, a lot of people has different ways of coping this pandemic. At the same time, you know, the anxiety, you know, vulnerability, and how to protect your families at home who are or may be susceptible to this virus.
Yeah, so important to mention that and remind us about that. Danny, what about you? I have to apologize. I think I mispronounced the name of your school earlier. Is it Hahaione? Or can you pronounce it for me?
Yes, that's correct. Hawai'i Elementary.
Hahaione. Where is that actually? I'm not familiar.
It means shifting sands. Oh, it's in Hawaii Kai, and it means shifting sands, if you're wondering.
Shifting sands. Okay, see, I learned. See, you're educating me as we speak. I love it. Thank you so much. Yeah, I thought it was an L, so I said Hahalone, but it's Hahaione. Okay, wonderful. So tell us about, third graders. This is a young group. They want to be close to each other. They want to, I guess the concern that I heard from parents of this age group, including my own, because I have a third grader, is how can you maintain the distancing and the masking, and this is an age that they just want to be with their friends, and it was important to do distance learning because frankly parents didn't trust that the kids or the teachers could police that. Can you even police that?
It's a great question. We're gonna find out when I have all my kids. But when we did have our hybrid time, my kids did pretty well. We only had about 3 to 4 kids in a classroom at a time during that first week of school. And it was just constant reminders and just getting into that routine. Don't forget, you're 6 feet. 6 feet. You're too close to me. Like, I love you and everything, but 6 feet, right? But I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges is for our youngest kids. It's like we want them to get their social, just that social aspect of school and just being able to be with their friends. Like I had one student stay after class one day and I'm like, oh, do you have a question about an assignment? She's like, no, I just want to stay and talk. I'm like, oh, okay.
Aww.
Well, I can give you 5 minutes. She's like, do you have a meeting again? I'm like, no, but we can't just be chilling all the time. So one of the things I do is just I'll offer lunch bunch. Hey, you guys can stay on for another 30 minutes during lunch. You can have lunch with me and we can all just sit and chat about whatever, talk story. So yeah, I think just trying to keep the mental health with our students, is going to be a challenge during this time.
Mm-hmm. And just like Ellie, were you concerned about, your safety? Because you don't know what different parents do different things in their own households, right? And then you're being exposed to so many of these kids.
For sure. I'm a gamer, so I was just I'm gonna go for it. Whatever my school is asking me to do, then I'll go. But I think my school did a really good job about taking care of all the safety precautions. We got masks for every student. We got those clear plastic dividers for every desk. We got air purifiers for every classroom. We had hand sanitizer stations posted on each classroom, and then we even had some teachers that built stationary hand sanitizer sections on campus, and our custodians were sanitizing as much as possible after each switch during our first week. So I think, and then on top of that, my principal tried to hire more teachers to bring down or lower our class sizes. So I think there was a lot of thought put into it, and so I think that gave a bunch of us some peace of mind.
Yeah, I think that it's really about making sure that there's not that many people in the actual room, right? So that was a big thing. I wanted to see at least give Annie a chance and give you guys a little bit of a break. So let's talk about the census, because that's really what is bringing all of us together, the importance of the census. So you guys take a quick break while I talk to Annie here about what's happening with the Filipino Complete Count Committee. All right. Hey, Annie.
Hi, Annalisa. How are you guys?
Good. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much again for giving us an update. So what's the latest? How are we responding?
Yes, I love sharing our progress to our community. And as of today, our self-response score is at 62.2%. And we do have a new metrics that we are, publishing every day, and that is our door-to-door enumeration progress. So or that's what we call the non-response follow-up as well, and that is at 35.4% of total households were enumerated. So by door-to-door visits. So now we combine the self-response score of 62.2% with our door-to-door enumeration of 35.4%, and that gives us a total enumeration of 97.6%. So we're almost done. Please bear with us.
Well, and I know that you did have some challenges, obviously, kind of doing the
Yes.
door-to-door because, again, COVID, people were wary of, you just want to not invite outside people. And how has that been? How has that been going?
Yes, we definitely had some challenges, but we are very grateful for our community's cooperation for helping us, complete a lot of the bulk of our door-to-door enumeration, and that's why we have 35.4% right now. And we are it's kind of crazy because we do have our total household, like we're completed, and we are around 95 to 99% done, so, or 85 to 99% done. So we are getting there, and as I said earlier, 97.6%. So we still have some 2 point something percent. My math is not working, but to finish. So, and then we still have some transitory locations operations that we're doing. So we will be counting those who live in RV parks, campgrounds, marinas, like that. So we will be counting them as well. And then we're also counting our community members who are experiencing homelessness right now, and that will be around September 22 to 24. So we still have some operations left, and we are just grateful that our community is helping us complete that, and our complete count committees are still going strong, helping us make this happen. We're only as strong as our partners. So thank you so much, Filipino Complete Count Committee, for standing by with us through all this long marathon, census marathon that we're having.
Yeah, especially with the challenge with COVID, right? So
Definitely.
what can we be doing? So you have that last 2.5% or whatever percent that you need. How can we all help?
So it's still not too late to respond. We all know this year has been incredibly challenging, and we're all grappling with the idea of what the future is going to look like. And we're all, we all have this shared vision of a better future as we come out of this pandemic. And we individually and collectively can be a part of the solution. And one of the simplest ways to do that is to respond to the census. Please remind your family, your neighbor, your friends, your social media friends, and co-workers to be counted still. So it's not too late. You can still go online at my2020census.gov. You can also call 844-330-2020 to complete your census over the phone. If you want to speak to a local representative, aka me, I can help you respond to the census. I also speak Tagalog, so if you're more comfortable with that, I can help you. Please don't hesitate to call 808-892-5141, and we can schedule an appointment so we can count you. Okay, so it's 808-892-5141. Thank you.
All right, so there's no excuse anymore. Like, we have to
No
get it done, guys, if you haven't already. I did mine a long time ago, so it feels
Yay.
like, yeah, it's so important. And just remind us again, this is really tied to money and our communities. And if we don't, we kind of do ourselves a disservice, right? If we don't participate.
Exactly.
Explain it,
If we
remind
ignore
us.
this, if we ignore the census, we also ignore the millions of dollars that are coming to our community that will go to our schools, to support our educators and our students, our healthcare services, our roads. These are things that affects us every day. So please don't ignore the census. I know you've seen them on your TV, you've heard them on the radio, on social media, when you watch YouTube, it's there. So please go online, my2020census.gov, or call me.
Yeah, just call Annie if you have any
Yes.
concerns or questions. And the big thing is that it is protected information. It's not going to be
It is.
shared
It's safe.
or used against you. And I'm the big proponent as well. And let's bring it back our teachers to say how important this is to them as well, because this is money going to our schools and all our keiki programs, and it's so important because again. If we don't have accurate numbers for some of these communities, then then we don't have the resources that they need. They're already struggling with resources, right, guys? Does anyone want to just pipe up and share your experiences with the census and what it means to you? Or do I need to call on you? I need to call on you like a teacher. No one's going to raise their hand. Fine. Let's start with you, Ellie.
Okay, never mind.
Okay, I'll go in order then.
I guess, are you doing ladies first in
Yes.
this one?
Yes. Siyempre, kasi magandang ang outfit mo. I like it.
I believe in census. It is really, really important for all of us because of the funding. And for us, if we really care, if we really cherish and making sure that our keiki has those opportunities after school for their programs, for robotics, for sports, right? And facilities as well as technology. Please do the census because this would fund into our schools and will definitely support us as we committing ourselves into what excellence and equitable education looks like. We need the money, and that's really important. And census make it possible for us to be able to help each school, especially those ones that are that has a lot of needs, especially during this pandemic. A lot of things, we have a lot of challenges, and of course we also have a lot of possibilities. And this census will really, really significantly impact, from now onwards on how we actually promote well-equipped classrooms and schools for the next generation.
So important. Thank you. I love that message. Did you say you wanted to go next, Danny?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you so much for remembering me. Appreciate it. All right. So if we're talking about how the census could indirectly affect our students, we keep talking about their mental health and all that, and especially now we don't know how long COVID is gonna last, right? And if their families continue to get affected, the census also affects things like Medicaid, mental health services, right? So if their families aren't being helped out, then that's going to affect them at home. They're not going to be able to learn if they're not mentally stable. They're worrying about mom or brother being sick or whatever, right? So I think thinking about it that way too, absolutely, yes, it is important. We want money for our schools, but it's such a huge important topic and thing that we should all definitely jump on that census.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Nell?
I think completing the census is quite important because it will provide opportunities and resources for all the schools and home situations. I believe that every child deserves the best education that teachers can provide. So by having more resources, will ensure the accessibility and also the equitability of the distribution of all these resources, not just in districts, but with budgets, with allocations, but everyone, not just those particular districts. So I think everyone should complete their sense. I did.
And I hope everyone else did. And what about you, Ryan?
Yes, I did too, by the way, just FYI.
You're that kid in school, Danny, aren't you? You're like, I did, me. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, just to add in regards to the importance of the allocation of resources, if we're looking at Hawaii Department of Education, the second largest demographic are Filipino students. And so that is something that we need to elevate in terms of the conversations happening in the state. What are we ensuring, or how are we ensuring that Filipino students are getting the necessary supports that they deserve? And that trickles down to the majority of working families that exist in Kalihi, Waipahu, and Eva Beach, as well as our rural communities on the neighbor islands. So where majority of our Filipino working families live. So I think that conversation needs to happen, and we're talking about knowing where our families are and how to allocate the appropriate resources to our families.
Good point. And, as we said, mental health really was one of the big reasons that a lot of people wanted the kids to go back to in-person learning, because of, just that interaction that all of you guys provide for our keiki, and that reassurance, and just kind of the important roles you guys play in our daily lives. So let's go back to our topic about education and, parents now. As a parent myself, and I'm struggling, I'm sure all of you have heard the complaints from us parents, just struggling, working parents especially, parents of special ed children, just struggling to deal with virtual learning and this new normal, as we keep saying. Let's start with you. Let's go back to you, Ryan. What's your experiences been with parents and helping them get through this very, very challenging time of adapting to a new way of learning?
Yeah, as a school leader and teacher, I always just made the assumption that it was my responsibility to ensure that I provide this excellent education, so that parents don't need to, not that they don't need to be fully invested in their child's education, but reduce the stress that they already have to deal with, right? They're working, providing for the family, ensuring that there's food and a roof over our children's head. And during this pandemic, what I think is a little bit different is now parents are seeing everything has the ability to see everything that a teacher is doing, which is great, because now we get to have this conversation about, what an excellent education looks like. What can students do at home that is going to relate to their learning and experiences? And so I think the number one thing between a teacher and family is really just building that communication and expectation of, this is going to be enough for your child to learn these concepts, right? And we're going to try our best to do it in a virtual environment, because we can't do the in-depth knowledge of all these things because we're not in that face-to-face interaction. So it's really asking parents to, be that partner and to have some grace. We're going to have grace with them, and they should, also have grace with us in regards to ensuring that we provide what we can do at this moment.
Yeah, constant. And again, the extension of the patience to the parents as well. Thank you for that. Let's go to Ellie. Tell us about your experience. How has it been with dealing with the parents and adjusting to the distance learning?
First and foremost, I would like to thank all parents out there who are supporting us, teachers. We really need you. And you've seen how much, we work so hard among each other right now. We collaborate, and we need, because we can't really be there on the other side. And we thank you so much for being resilient and being there for your students, being involved, highly involved. And I would say that at this time, we are in this boat together. And I hope that you would also choose love as we choose love here for your students. We do love your students, and we will try our best. We are professionals, and we also care for our children in the community. They are our future. And to ensure that our future will look brighter, we teachers are making sure that we do our part and we know that we might have some shortcomings because, in all honesty, we are uniquely designed, just like your students, just like your children at home. Teachers are the same way. And, you know, some of us, maybe sometimes we have some technical issues that we're not in control of. And, you know, we ask for your grace. And as we get overwhelmed, sometimes we need to exhale and just, you know, we want to be appreciated as well. And we thank you again. I just would like to thank you all for being there for us. And we are all in this together. Mahalo.
Oh, and I have to say, I appreciate, and I think I hear this from parents all over, especially working parents, that kind of, as Ryan said, we leave it to you guys to take care of our children during the day. I have this so much bigger appreciation for the work that all of you do. And I've heard this from so many other parents as well, you know, because now we are part of the education process. And it's like, oh my gosh, you guys, the people that go into this job, you are special. And we appreciate you there. It may not be told and it may not be said, but, you know, Danny, you know, I have a 3rd grader and a 4th grader, and they miss their teacher. They miss, like you said, going up to the teacher and being like, oh, Mrs. Such and Such, love you, da-da-da. And it's just chat. Now, I've become the one that they're chatting with, and I love that too, but sometimes I need a break, you know? What about you? Tell us about your experience with parents and how you're doing.
My parents are great. I love my parents. Super supportive. So, quick story. My first week, I gave some fun facts about myself. And one of the last fun facts was, oh, and I really like Fruity Pebbles. Like, that's my favorite cereal, right? So, like, a couple of days after that, like, mom comes in with, like, Fruity Pebbles Rice Krispies, like a whole tray of it. I'm like, whoa, what? So, like, the little things like that, like, you're not going to get that at, like, other jobs all the time. Like, so it's so cute. Like, some parents they're just, like, overly appreciative. And maybe that's not even a thing. Like, thank you so much for, like, appreciating teachers. So shout out to my parents. Right on. But I think, like, for like, if parents are asking, like, oh, like, how can I support my child at home? Like, in regards to what Ryan mentioned earlier, just, like, allowing your kids to learn for themselves, you know? Like, you don't need to sit there with them and be like, the answer is 24. Like, no, I can hear you. Like, I want to know what she's thinking. Like, you know, like, it's fine. Like, go to your laptop and do your remote work, or, you know, do chores around the house. Like, if your child has a question, like, we're in school, your child should ask the teacher for help. Like, you know, so just, I guess, entrusting the teachers, and also, like, being able to be okay with seeing your kids struggle in class. Like, that's where the true learning is really going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to just give them answers. Let them struggle. Like, that's real life. And, you know, that's how they're going to retain the information better.
Yeah, very important. And let's go to, of course, Nel. You know, you teach science. That's an interesting subject to do virtually, for sure, biology. And I know there's challenges with connectivity and access, right? We talked about that briefly. How have you been able to cope with that, with people, you know, that may not have the same access as others, and that inequity there?
Right, that's a really good question. I think one of the ways that teachers can just be more flexible, because, you know, it's really difficult to expect that everyone in your class will have that same connectivity. So, you know, it is common nowadays that students will have access to technology, but not every home is going to be the same. So when students have poor connections, you know, I try to be more flexible by having students see me maybe after school, by providing opportunities for them to either, you know, ask me questions if they didn't get to ask questions during class, things like that. So I think, you know, teachers can be more flexible and be patient with the students. We cannot really expect for all of our students to behave in such a way that they would otherwise behave in a classroom where we provide all the opportunities for them, resources. And I do appreciate the parents, because I'm sure the parents are there to ensure that their child or their, you know, children are learning. Some of the homes that some of my students have, you know, they have siblings in the same bedroom. So I think that's one of the challenges that we have, that they may have shared resources, or they may have a distraction here and there. So I think patience is key here. As teachers, let's be more patient with how we engage our students in this pandemic situation.
Yeah, I think, and we talked about this too before about, how do you bridge the gap, right? How, as a teacher, you can see it maybe in a physical setting, or if someone's falling behind, but in a virtual setting, how do you, find out whether a child is really falling behind? That's the biggest concern by a lot of parents, right? That if they're working, and I know this personally too, it's like when you're working and you're not focused on what your child is doing and they're struggling, how do you identify that?
Right. So what I normally do is I monitor students' performance and the way how they submit their assignments electronically. And so on a regular basis, perhaps on a weekly basis, when students are not doing well, I make that call. I call the parents directly and inform the parents and share the information that, hey, your child seems to be having some difficulty in completing a task. What can I do, or what can we do together as a team to ensure that your child is doing well? So I think a simple phone call, I learned that, over the past 3 weeks. Parents appreciate that. I think it's an eye-opening experience for the parents to receive a call, nowadays, because they assume that perhaps through emails or through some kind of electronic communication would be the main access or the main platform. But I think they would appreciate if teachers can, support the child and make that extra effort in communicating with them by calling them. And some of the parents, they may have other obligations that they're in charge of, and so I think they're not aware of the child's challenges. So by sharing with them these challenges, they would be more aware of what they can do as a parent. So they really appreciate that, and it makes a difference. You see the grade, the performance increase the next day. Students are more attentive because the child knows now that the teacher is there to communicate with the parent what's going on.
Yeah, definitely open the line of communication a little bit more. Ryan, tell us about, at your school, and also with special education children, there's a unique challenge there. What's your vision going forward as we, try to, go forward with distance learning? Who knows when they're going to let in-person back in. I know you still have this hybrid also, so tell us about what you're planning going forward.
Right. First I want to say that I think the pandemic did a good thing in regards to really looking at the inequities that exist in education, especially in special education. And in our work, it's really about the allocation of resources to service providers like licensed behavior analysts or support staff to help students with autism, speech pathologists, occupational therapists, right? These are all professionals that work with us closely in the special education setting. And there's not enough of these services in public schools. And so what we're trying to do is really communicate with them and scheduling time to provide those services with families and children. Working with students that have autism has been definitely a challenge of one, making sure that they're really focused online and being able to get the learning online. But like I said, I think that continued work with outside providers and service providers is really going to enhance the learning for our students with disabilities.
Yeah, and just again, going forward, are you confident that should the pandemic not get any better, that that people will be able to just kind of approach this in a different way, your teachers and the support in the community? What would be your wish list for the community if it doesn't get any better right now?
Well, I think the wish list is really going to be looking at, one, what are the gaps that currently exist in public education, and then having the community to help educators advocate for those necessary services. And I think once we, further reach out into communities and say, hey, licensed behavior analysts are really part of the educational system. We need more of them, and advocating for those resources to be funneled into the system. I think that is going to be the wish for me, and I think that's going to be the wish for communities as we start to see that those gaps need to be filled in order for us to provide what an excellent education looks like for kids.
Okay, great. And what about you, Ellie? What is your wish list as we move forward and try to navigate the rest of the year for sure?
For me, it would be choose love and be kind to each other. In these unprecedented times, we really don't know what's going to happen. And I know that we have internet connectivity issues, but that's just in a way minor. It's again emphasizing that home lives can be different too, and school lives can be different. But we know that if we are in unity to be kind and to be good and just making sure we're flexible and supporting each other as a community, then we can rise up and be stronger, and hopefully, we can help solve all the whatever arising problems that we have that or we may be facing in the future. It's about just having open communication and patience, and just please listen to our voices. Those voices are very crucial. The feedback to really, our government, our Department of Education should hear about them and come up with mutual agreement and solutions, because we are in this together. We are a community, and no man is an island.
Mm-hmm. Very good reminder, especially when you said earlier about empathy, remembering empathy. All right. So, and then let's go back to Danny. Your wish list as we go forward.
I think my wish list for like our political leaders is to just, with all the decisions that they make, I think I just want them to just remember to keep our keiki in mind. And they are going to be our future, and they're going to be taking care of our Hawai'i. And and if they want, you guys can come into my classroom. Any of you political leaders, come and jump in, and you can see what it's like. Or any of these people's classroom, any teacher's classroom, go to a classroom and like see what it's like, especially now. And like, it's even easier now to join our classroom. We'll just send you a Zoom link. So yeah, I think moving forward, there's gonna be still a lot of obstacles to get through, but I think together, if we have the right mindset, we can get through it.
Mm-hmm. And finally for you, Nell, wish list as we go forward.
My wish list is that I would like to learn more in terms of how to better support my students. So I think that involves professional development. Teachers receive that professional development in the beginning of the school year. That was great, and I'm grateful for that. But I think teachers also need that ongoing support, ongoing continuous professional development, so that way we can better enhance the way how our students. Sure that I engage all of my students, not just the ones that are vocal or the ones that are actively participating on a regular basis. How can I reach out to all of my students and be able to enhance their learning? So in other words, what are the ways that I can do as a teacher when we're faced with this situation in terms of professional development? That's my wish.
Yes. And my wish for all of you is mental health. Take care of yourselves, you guys. I know you are doing such incredible work, and maybe you don't get acknowledged enough, or we don't thank you enough, but rest assured that, I as a journalist am trying to share these voices, and I appreciate you guys, first of all, for joining this Zoom. This is part of the step to increase awareness of what you guys are going through. I know it's hard when the government is so focused on numbers and cases, and they're at this other level, but it's important to hear what's happening on the ground, because as you said, I know Ellie mentioned it also, sometimes they've lost touch with what's happening on the ground and with what you guys are experiencing. But I think programs like this help us. So salamat sa lahat sa inyo, right, for joining. That's my taglish for today. But I want to thank everyone. This was such an important topic, and I will be, just a note, I know I've spoken to Ellie and Nell, but I will be reaching out to you, Ryan and Danny, for future stories. Yay! Because we need to continue this conversation, okay? So thank you again to our panelists today for sharing their stories of resilience and amazing work out there. Danny Acidera, Elizabeth Frilles, Ryan Mandado, and Nel Venzon Jr. Thank you so much. And we can't go away without saying bye to U.S. Census. Our representative here, where is she? Annie, come back in. Annie Sokol. Our partnership with her and promoting the importance of census and getting the resources for our schools and our keiki. Thank you as usual. And you guys can unmute and say hey, and this is like Tsismisan. I'm like the only one talking right now. Thank you to, okay, I'm going to do my cleanup for today. Tsismisan Talk Story, again, simulcast on Oahu, on KNDI 1270, Maui Mix 105.5 FM, and on Kauai 107.9 FM, KTOH, HD3. Thank you so much to our radio listeners for tuning in. The Filipino Complete Count Committee, again, check out their Facebook page. They'll have good information and prizes for you. And again, our partners, Filipino Complete Count Committee, FYLPRO, thank you so much. Char McGinnis and Sergio Alcubilia for all their work organizing this ethnic education, Hawaii, Philippine Consulate of Honolulu, of course, and all our people behind the scenes. And last but definitely not least, Banette Misalucha, who keeps us all in line and does a great job organizing this wonderful series. It's so helpful. She's the chair of the Philippine Complete Count Committee. And of course, she's a senator, in case you didn't know. She's running for senator. I'll just throw that in there. This is the second, of course, to the last Tsismisan. I made a mistake earlier. I thought this was the last one, but we have another one, so even better news. So our last one will actually be on Sunday, September 27th. We're going to do a wrap-up of all of the efforts, the lessons learned. We had so many great speakers and topics, so we'll be doing that at the end of the month. So again, salamat sa lahat. Are you guys, say bye. You can say bye.
Bye.
My name is
Salamat,
Annalisa Burgos.
and everyone.
Thank you so much.
Maraming salamat.
Muchas
Hey Nel,
gracias.
hey Nel, you know that your nephew is dating my niece, Miguel?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Small world, dude.
It's a real Tsismisan. He just had to throw that in there. Thank you, Danny. And you can always catch this again. We're going to post it all over on social media. So if you missed any of it, you can play it over and over and over. And I'll use
Thanks,
parts of
everyone.
it in my newscast. Yay!
Maraming salamat,
Aloha!
Melissa. Bye.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat.
Mag-ingat kayo. Bye-bye.
Domo arigato gozaimasu.